Within the vast and overarching scope of cinematic production, only a mere few are blessed to grace the spotlit pedestal of our media zeitgeist. The directors revered as visionaries and their star-studded muses. Amongst the limelight and subsequent fame, most other efforts seem to fall by the wayside of public recognition. Within this piece, I'll be focusing solely on editing, a craft that despite its intrinsic importance to the industry, has more often than not found itself in the shadows of its counterparts. Historically and largely still overlooked, editing transcends the mere arrangements of shots. Rather, it's more accurately the creation of rhythm and emotion to guide the narrative along. The distinction largely arose in the dawning of the Kuleshov effect, an editing principle named after Soviet filmmaker Lev Kuleshov, by cutting together two sequential shots to elicit a specific response rather than using one single shot in isolation. Its creation has served as an essential cornerstone of cinema and largely defined the first of editing as a whole. Before this, editing was still very much utilized in a primitive and basic way. However, despite its increased recognition in the modern age of cinema, its awareness is still yet to be popularized by those outside the industry. Despite this, a few have managed to climb through the ranks, most notably Thelma Schoonmaker and her work with Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg's work with Michael Kahn. Within this essay, I'll be exploring the work of an editor revered for his frequent collaborations with the legendary auteur Wong Kar-Wai, and yet largely removed from public recognition.
I think my process is more or less like yours, because you work with Thelma.
With Thelma, yeah. Right.
Yes, who's I consider like one of the best editors in our generation.
Definitely.
And I work with William, my production designer.
Yeah.
Hong Kong native William Chang Suk-ping began his career in the late 1970s as an assistant art director and costume designer on several Hong Kong films following his film studies at the University of Vancouver, and in the mid-1980s began his long-lasting collaboration with Wong Kar-Wai. However, it wasn't until 1994 that Chang made his editing debut on Wong's Days of Being Wild. Since then, Chang has contributed significantly to the visual style and storytelling techniques of Wong's films. Often characterized by their fluidity, rhythm, and ability to evoke emotion through juxtaposing images and scenes, Chang displays a unique talent for crafting non-linear narratives that are common of Wong's working scripts, and shows the ability to captivate audiences whilst blurring the boundaries between reality and fantasy, a large component in the dreamlike quality that Wong's films are synonymous with. 1990's Days of Being Wild proves this perfectly throughout its 1 hour and 30-minute runtime. Chang's ability to weave and intertwine multiple storylines of a non-linear fashion together not only creates a winding ebb and flow within the narrative, but also a rich temporal manipulation that enhances the emotional rhythm of the film and underscores themes of loneliness and identity by calling attention to similar feelings of conflict and reconciliation within different times, motifs that have since become synonymous with his style, as again seen in 2004's 2046, in which the seamless transitions and intercutting between time creates a sense of worldly disorientation that works to personify the passage of time, accentuating the protagonist's emotional turmoil, lost love, and existential uncertainty. The crafting of a rich mood and atmosphere is best showcased in 1997's Happy Together, most seen through the relationship of Ho Po Wing and Lau Yufei. Chang employs several slow-motion shots during the moments of intimacy and emotional turmoil between the lovers. The elongating of these deep and personal moments allows the audience to peer into the window of the relationship and build a greater sense of immersion to the characters, their emotions, and experiences, an investment that is formed out of inclusion. This can further be denoted in his technique of lingering shots, extracting the most out of takes and footage he's provided with. Holding a shot allows the audience time to scan the frame and work to draw attention to the subtle nuances that change within them. Regarding a close-up, lingering shots can work to enhance an emotional response, allowing the audience to observe the raw emotion and vulnerabilities of the characters in a much more intimate way, as seen throughout Fallen Angels. In a way, Chang can be seen to prioritize emotion over the plot, employing an understated stylistic approach to the edit. Through this, he is able to force a quiet introspection that exposes the vulnerabilities of characters and invites the audience to empathize with their struggles and desires. Wong's stylized approach to edits can be examined in many forms, one of which is the rhythmic pacing of 1994's Chungking Express. In the now iconic scene of Faye dancing alone in her apartment accompanied by the Mamas and Papas song California Dreaming, Chang skips between shots with quick cuts and dynamic transitions to sync with the pulsing rhythm of the song, perfectly encapsulating the scene's purpose in portraying Faye's carefree spirit and longing for escape. Within Fallen Angels, we see a similar but more experimental technique in the frenetic montage sequences, utilizing the rapid cutting of shots and unconventional framing graded in a saturated neon glow. The emphasis on drawing emotion over the narrative and creating a sensory overload to visually portray the bustling disorientation of Hong Kong's underground nightlife is a true marvel of the editing process as a whole. Chang was able to craft something in post-production that was more powerfully telling than words itself could have been in that instance, going on to win Chang Best Editing in the Asian Pacific Film Festival. Having continued to express a disinterest in fame and living under public scrutiny, it's difficult to find explicit mention of Chang. However, looking at his decorated legacy and acclaimed films that he has worked on, particularly in the scope of Hong Kong and Asian cinema in the mainstream, as well as cinema overall, Chang's influence is undeniable.